Hey guys, tonight we slip into the worn sandals of a medicus gladiatorum, a gladiator doctor in ancient Rome. Forget pristine temples. We're diving into the gritty, blood-streaked underbelly where survival hinges on your bone saw and strong stomach. Dawn cracks over the Tiber, but down in Subura, air tastes like stale wine, sweat, and dead fish. You blink, gritty eyes open in your cramped apartment, laundry lines strung outside. The city's symphony assaults you. Donkey carts, smashing pots, hammering, and the hum of thousands living stacked. Roll off your thin straw mattress. A splash of tepid water does little. Pull on a stained tunic. Grab coarse bread. Chew mechanically. This is your world. Pungent, relentless. Your job? Patching men destined for sand. Every stitch buys another week before the arena claims them. You probably won't survive past 40. Germs, stress, toll see to that. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where are you listening? Drop location and local time below. Now, dim lights, turn on a fan for soft hum, and ease into tonight's journey. Stench hits like a wall outside. Waste, rot, dust. Weave through slaves hauling amphorae, merchants hawking sausages, bargaining housewives, darting kids. Turn down narrow alleys, buildings leaning overhead. Sandals slap wet stones. Pass a latrine trench adding potency. Mainstream fact, Rome crammed 1 million souls into less than Central Park. Disease pressure unimaginable. Sidestep, a foul puddle. Quirky tidbit, some Romans used crocodile dung sunscreen. Imagine that atop Subura's stench. Historians still argue if citizens were nose blind or resigned. Press on. City sounds fade. New intensity grows. Clang of metal, shouts, whip cracks. Near the ludus, now. Sweat, iron, fear overpower city smells. Pause at heavy iron-bound gate. Workplace. Deep breath tastes like dust and blood. Push gate open. Street gloom yields sunlit courtyard. Sand scuffs underfoot. Rows of muscled men drill. Wooden swords thud posts. Weights lift. Bodies wrestle dirt. Air vibrates with exertion. Eyes flick to you. Medicus. Hope. Resentment. Fear. You're not them, but their lifeline. Morning rounds begin. That headache settles. Time to see who didn't survive night training. First stop, barracks. Dank air thick with old blood and liniment. Straw mattresses line walls. A Thracian. Darkus. Groans, clutching ribs. Fell wrong during grappling, mutters his cellmate. Kneel. Probe. Bruised, not broken. Honey poultice applied. Next, young Celt, feverish. Leg wound inflamed. Pulse redness. You know infection's shadow. Options, vinegar wash. Pray. No magic herbs here. Mainstream fact. Roman medics understood pus types. Good, thick, white versus bad, thin, foul. This looks bad. Quirky detail? Some believed placing a live chicken on wounds drew out evil spirits. You lack chickens. And faith. Pack wound with garlic paste instead. Historians still debate if gladiator medics were respected professionals or just butchers with tools. Move to veteran murmuring prayers. Old scar torn open during sword drill. Need stitches. Thread, bone needle. Poppy tincture offered. He refuses. Fears clouding reflexes. Grit teeth, so fast. Blood beads. Wipe with vinegar-soaked linen. His eyes lock on ceiling. No flinch. Done. Outside, training intensifies. Lanista barks. 2 myrmiones spar with dulled blades. Clash. Grunt. 1 staggers. Shoulder dislocation. You step in. Grip arm. Heave. Pop. Scream swallowed. Quick sling. Nod. No thanks. Just sand grinding under boots returning to drill. The Celt's feverish gaze follows you as you step back into the courtyard glare. That wound needs constant vigilance you can't give right now. Time to prepare. You head towards your small shadowed room off the main training yard, your taberna medica. It's cramped, smelling sharply of vinegar, dried herbs, and something metallic. A rough wooden table holds your lifeline, the surgical kit. You unlatch the sturdy bronze case. Inside, instruments gleam dully, meticulously arranged. Your fingers brush cold metal. Mainstream historical fact. Roman surgical tools were remarkably sophisticated, many designs still recognizable today. A testament to practical innovation born of brutal necessity. You lift a scalpel, scalpellus. Its bronze handle worn smooth by your grip, the steel blade honed razor sharp. Next, forceps, vulsella, for extracting arrowheads or holding flesh steady. A probe speculum, basically a fancy ancient Q-tip for exploring wounds. The vaginal speculum, dioptra, looks unsettlingly modern, and the bone lever, fusina, heavy and cruel looking for, well, you try not to think about that job too often. You check the linen bandages, neatly rolled. Jaws line a shelf. Viscous honey, nature's antibiotic. Strong vinegar, stings like Hades but cleans. Dried yarrow, poppy syrup, opium, and the ever-present garum, yes, the fish sauce. Not for lunch. Its fermented saltiness helps pack wounds, believe it or not. Quirky tidbit? Some medics swore by powdered mouse ashes mixed with honey for toothaches. You've never tried it. Prefer willow bark tea, personally. You count your suture needles, bone and bronze. Thread, linen, or, in a pinch, gut. Historians still argue whether Roman medicine was truly advanced or just effective battlefield patchwork elevated by Greek theory they often dismissed. You grab a mortar and pestle. Crushing dried comfrey root releases a dusty green scent. Add honey, a splash of vinegar. Stir. This poultice might soothe Dacus's bruised ribs later. The kit's weight is familiar, comforting in its potential, terrifying in its constant demand. 3 light jokes? All right. 1. Calling your probe an ancient Q-tip counts. 2. Thinking of garum as ancient fishy biohazard gel. 3. That bone lever's nickname among the medics? The Persuader. Dark humor gets you through. Suddenly, a sharp cry cuts through the training yard din. Not pain, but alarm. You snap the kit shut, latch it. No time for comfrey pace now. That's the sound of splintered bone or dislocated joint. The lanista hates downtime. You sling the kit strap over your shoulder, the familiar weight thumping against your hip as you stride back into the harsh sunlight, sand gritting under your sandals. The source is clear. A young, retiarius, net and trident fighter, crumpled near a practice post, clutching his forearm at a sickeningly wrong angle. His practice net lies tangled nearby. The lanista scowls nearby. Fix him, fast. The boy's eyes are wide, pupils dilated with shock and pain, sweat beads on his upper lip. You kneel, the warm sand pressing into your knees through the thin fabric of your tunic. Easy, you murmur, more for yourself than him. Your fingers gently probe the swelling, definitely broken, both radius and ulna. Clean break? Maybe. Setting this will hurt. A lot. You reach into your kit. Poppy syrup first. He gulps it greedily, grimacing at the bitter taste. You need him still. Second stretch, thick with his ragged breathing and the distant clatter of training. You feel the eyes again, fighters pretending not to watch, the lanista impatient. The syrup's haze starts to cloud the boy's fear. Time to work. You nod to 2 nearby myrmiones, heavy armored fighters. They understand. They move in, their hands firm on the boy's shoulder and upper arm, pinning him down without ceremony. He whimpers. You grasp the forearm firmly, above and below the break. The bone fragments grate under your fingers. You take a breath, bracing your own body. Then pull. Hard and precise. You feel the bones slide, click back into alignment beneath the skin. The boy's scream is raw, tearing from his throat, echoing briefly off the courtyard walls before subsiding into choked sobs. Sweat stings your own eyes. Quickly, before the muscles spasm, you splint the arm. Wooden slats from your kit, padded with linen scraps, bound tight with bandages soaked in water that will stiffen as it dries. Crude, effective. Like stitching sails. Keep it still. Don't touch the splint. You order. Voice rough. The myrmillones release him. He curls onto his side, cradling the splintered arm, trembling. You repack your kit. Another body kept fighting fit for the sand. The weight on your shoulder feels heavier. The sun climbs higher. The courtyard heat intensifies, shimmering above the sand. The rhythmic thud of wooden swords against posts resumes. The incident is already forgotten by the grind. Your eyes scan the sweating figure. The boy's strained breathing fades into the courtyard's rhythm as you wipe grit from your eyes. Time for the essential check-ins. You move towards the barracks, the dim interior, a cool reprieve. The air hangs heavy, old sweat, liniment, damp straw. Gladiators rest or watch silently. Your arrival stirs low murmurs. Eyes follow you. Hope. Weariness. You're their buffer against the inevitable decay. First stop. Darkus, the Thracian. He sits up carefully, wincing. You kneel, examining the bruised mosaic across his ribs. Still tender. The honey poultice looks undisturbed, no sign of worsening. Good. You apply a fresh layer. Light work today, Dacus. Or next time it snaps. He nods, a tight acknowledgement in his eyes. Mainstream historical fact. Gladiators were significant assets. Elite schools employed skilled medics like you to safeguard that investment, leading to surprisingly advanced care documented by physicians like Galen. Next bunk. The young Celt. His skin radiates unnatural heat. The leg wound, you treated pulses with angry inflammation. You carefully check the dressing. The situation is concerning, not good. Quirky tidbit. Some Roman medics used specially bred maggots for wound cleaning, believing they consumed only damaged tissue. You lack that option today. Vinegar wash, fresh garlic paste, honey. It's the best you can offer. He barely reacts, lost in a feverish haze. Historians still fiercely debate whether dedicated Ludi care actually improves survival odds for severe cases, or if the odds remained grimly low. Down the line. A secutor displays a clean practice cut. Quick vinegar sting, honey smear, bandage. Efficient. He nods curtly. A veteran Murmillo points to his swollen knee. An old companion flaring up. You massage in a sharp-smelling liniment of olive oil and crushed rue. Trouble with the sand today, Marcus? You murmur. He grunts. Sand's fine. It's the young speedsters. 3 light jokes. 1. Darkus's ribs feeling like kissing a mule. 2. Thinking of your role as the meat mechanic. 3. Marcus blaming young speedsters. Necessary humor in tight quarters. A young fighter shows a rash spreading on his chest. Looks like irritation from rough wool. Wash with diluted vinegar. Softer tunic if you can find one. He sighs, relieved. Thought Vulcan cursed me. Superstition is thick as the air here. Amulets hang everywhere. Carved charms, tiny god figures. One man sleeps with an owl's claw for luck. Practical medicine battles pervasive unease. Halfway. The veteran whose scar you sutured yesterday. He's oiling his helmet. The stitches look secure. Holding, Gavius? He glances down. Tighter than a Vestal's vow. A rare, faint smile touches your lips. Tough as old boot leather. You dab on more honey. Don't test it. He grunts, focused on his gear. Discipline born from countless close calls. Then Felix. The Retiarius with the shoulder injury. He's pale, cradling the sling. You gently check. The joint is swollen, tender. Dislocations often meant deep tissue damage. Poppy tears could ease the ache, but he needed stillness. Weeks of it. You know the Lannister's schedule. Games in 5 days. You rewrap the support firmly. Rest. Absolutely no drills. Felix stares down, jaw tight. Fear isn't just for the arena. It's for becoming worthless stock. The kid on your shoulder feels impossibly heavy. You finish the rounds, the Celt's shallow breaths the most insistent sound in the quiet space. Outside, the midday sun presses down. The training shouts seem muffled. Time for barley porridge. And the murmurs that always accompany it. Alexander's arrival is a cool draft in the stifling barracks. His sharp eyes scan the stripped bunk, the lingering tension, then settle on you. A curt nod. Professional courtesy. The Lanista is already gone, the yard's din resuming. Life, brutal and indifferent, rolling over the silence. You gesture towards your taberna medica. Alexander follows, his sandals whispering on the stone floor, a stark contrast to the gladiator's heavy tread. Inside your cramped workspace, the familiar sense of vinegar and herbs feels suddenly mundane. Alexander places his polished wooden case on your scarred table. Opening it reveals instruments gleaming brighter than yours, arranged with geometric precision. Bronze handles inlaid with ivory, scalpels honed to a finer edge. Mainstream historical fact, medical hierarchies existed. Greek-trained physicians like Alexander, often serving elite schools or wealthy patrons, sometimes viewed battlefield surgeons or medici gladiatorum as crude practitioners despite your shared knowledge base. He lifts a delicate probe. The Celt, his tone is clinical. Fever, wound, rot. You don't elaborate. He understands the shorthand. A pity. Young Riccieri show promise. He examines your mortar, crusted with dried comfrey. Pliny recommends fig sap mixed with rue for putrefaction. More palatable than garlic. Quirky tidbit? Some Greek physicians swore by rinsing wounds with aged human urine, believing its ammonia content purified. Alexander likely scoffs at such barbarism. You stick to vinegar. Garlic works, you counter simply. When you have it, he nods, not conceding, just noting. Show me your problem cases. You lead him back out. The yard is a controlled chaos. Alexander observes with detached interest as you point out Felix, the retiarius, with the swollen shoulder, now sitting dejectedly on a bench. Dislocated yesterday, reduced cleanly, but ligaments torn, needs rest. Alexander's fingers hover near the joint, assessing the heat and swelling without touching. Rest he won't get. Ligamentum teres damage is problematic. Poppy tears for the pain, cold compresses when possible. Support it well. If he fights in 5 days, he'll favor it. A weakness. His diagnosis is crisp, confirming your fears. Felix's jaw clenches tighter. Next, Dacus, drilling lightly with a wooden shield, still moving cautiously. Bruised ribs, honey poultice. Alexander watches the movement. Good. Keep him from torsion. A cracked rib can puncture a lung faster than a gladius. 3 light jokes bubble up defensively. 1, calling Alexander the ant for his meticulousness. 2, thinking of Felix's shoulder as his Achilles wing. 3, Dacus moving like he's carrying Vestal virgins. You mentioned Marcus's knee. Old injury. Liniment helps. Alexander strokes his chin. The wrestler Milo trained by carrying a bull calf daily as it grew. Perhaps Marcus needs a calf? His dry wit surprises you. You almost smile. He'd eat it before noon. Historians still argue whether the tension between Greek theoretical medicine and Roman practical surgery hindered or advanced overall medical knowledge in the empire. Watching Alexander assess Gavius's healed scar, he pronounces your stitching adequate, it feels like parallel worlds touching briefly. As you stand near the shade of the portico, Alexander lowers his voice. Heard about the lamb's liver? Gavius's omen? You nod. Superstition is universal currency here. The Lanista at Magnus sacrificed 2 white doves this morning. Countercharm. He pauses. There's another whisper. From the stables. One of the Andabede, the blindfolded fighters, claims he heard the Striga shrieking near the granary last night. Witches. Old women who stole vitality, blamed for sudden sickness or weakness. Even Alexander's rational facade seems to thin slightly in the oppressive heat and pervasive dread. Nonsense, of course, he adds briskly, adjusting the strap of his case, but bad for morale. Keep an eye on your barley supply. Sometimes mold mimics malice. His consultation is over. Efficient. He closes his gleaming case. The Celt ensure they burn his bedding thoroughly and wash down the bunk with vinegar. Strong vinegar. Practical advice, free from judgment. Good luck, Metis, he says, the Latin title neutral. You'll need it before Saturnalia. He turns and walks towards the gate, his figure neat and contained against the yard's sweaty tumult. His visit leaves a residue, sharper knowledge, sharper awareness of the fragility you manage. The afternoon sun slants, lengthening shadows across the sand. The immediate crises are past. For now. Felix sits stiffly. Marcus drills with grim determination. Darcus moves carefully. But the weight remains. Alexander's warnings about Felix's shoulder, about whispers and omens, about the ever-present specter of infection settle like dust. Time to prepare for the inevitable next wave. Your gaze drifts towards. The last sliver of sun vanishes behind the city's jagged skyline, plunging the Ludus into deep blue shadow. Torches sputter to life along the walls, casting long, dancing demons across the sand. The day's relentless energy drains away, replaced by a low hum of exhaustion and the nervous buzz of tomorrow's games. You retreat to your taberna medica, the flickering light of a single oil lamp painting the walls with restless shapes. The air inside is still warm, thick with the day's accumulated scents. Herbs, vinegar, dust, and an underlying metallic tang that never quite fades. Your work isn't done. Night rounds. By lamplight, everything feels more intimate, more fragile. You grab your kit and the lamp. The courtyard is quiet now. Just the crunch of a patrolling guard's sandals and the chirp of crickets braving the city's edge. Mainstream historical fact. Roman oil lamps burned olive oil, providing this exact kind of flickering, intimate light that made shadows leap and dance, perfect for fueling superstition or focusing weary eyes on a task. You push open the barracks door. The usual stench is muted, softened by darkness. Most men are already on their thin mattresses, but sleep is elusive. You see the whites of eyes tracking your flame. First stop, Felix. The Retiarius lies stiffly on his back, the sling a pale ghost around his neck and arm in the gloom. His face is taut. Hurts, he whispers, the word tight. You set the lamp down. Carefully, you unwind the bandages. The shoulder joint is hot, swollen tighter than before. Inflammation's red tide is winning. No puss, not yet, but the heat radiating off it speaks volumes. You bathe it gently with cool water mixed with a hint of vinegar, the lamp's flame reflecting in the dampness on his skin. Reapply the support, tighter this time. Poppy tears? He asks, hope raw in his voice. You measure a careful dose into a small cup. He gulps it, grimacing. Rest, truly rest. You murmur, knowing it's an impossible request. His eyes, wide and fearful in the low light, follow you as you move away. Quirky tidbit? Holman's employed professional dream interpreters virgulo onedo critici. Some fighters swore by specific pre-battle rituals, including sleeping with laurel leaves under their pillows to induce victory visions. You doubt Felix will see anything but sand and pain tonight. Next, Marcus. The old Momillo snores softly, his bad knee propped on a rolled-up cloak. You check it briefly. Still swollen, but the lineament's sharp scent lingers. He doesn't stir. Good. Sleep is his best healer now. 3 light jokes flicker. 1, calling the oil lamp your mood lighting. 2, thinking of Felix's poppy dose as liquid resignation. 3, Marcus's snores as the song of the ancient knee. Dacus is awake, sitting up. His ribs are a tapestry of fading bruises in the lamplight. You probe gently. He barely flinches. Healing? You confirm, reapplying a thin layer of honey. Don't get cocky tomorrow. He offers a rare, grim smile. Wouldn't dream of it, Mediz. Got a date with the sand. The casual mention of the arena hangs heavy. You move on. Gavius is meticulously cleaning his fingernails with a small knife. His scar looks fine. He nods as you pass, a silent acknowledgement. Historians still argue whether gladiators slept well the night before games, pumped with adrenaline and fear, or collapsed into exhausted, dreamless stupors fueled by barley and dread. Judging by the restless shifting, the low murmurs, the wide eyes reflecting your lamp flame, sleep is a scarce commodity tonight. You reach the young fighter with the rash. In the dim light, it looks less angry. Vinegar wash helping? He nods eagerly. Much better. Thanks, Metis. A small victory. You check a few others. Minor scrapes from the day's end drills. A swollen knuckle from a poorly landed punch. Routine maintenance by flickering light. The atmosphere is thick with unspoken tension. Prayers are whispered to Mars, to Nemesis. Amulets are clutched. One man traces intricate patterns in the dirt floor. The guard outside coughs, the sound unnaturally loud. Finally, you return to your room. The lamp's flame gutters as you set it down. Silence presses in, broken only by the distant, mournful call of a night watchman somewhere in the city and the persistent chirp of crickets. You stare at your kit, the instruments gleaming dully. Scalpel, forceps, bone liver. Tomorrow they won't be for practice injuries or dislocations. Tomorrow they'll be for the real thing. Deep gashes from sharpened steel, crushed limbs. Maybe worse. The image of the Celt's gray still face flashes unbidden. You shake your head, trying to dislodge it. Focus on the practical. Check your supplies. Bandages? Plenty, but you roll more linen strips anyway, the repetitive motion calming. Honey jar? Half full. Need to decant the new amphora tomorrow. Vinegar? Running low. Poppy syrup? Enough for now. Scalpels sharp? You test an edge against your thigh. A hand roughly shaking your shoulder jolts you from a thin, dreamless doze. Darkness still presses thick against the walls. Torchlight flickers from the doorway, casting the guard's face in harsh, dancing relief. Medicus, up. Lanista wants everyone ready before first light. His voice is a gravelly whisper, urgent. The games. They're here. Cold air bites as you swing your legs off the pallet, the straw crackling like dry bones. That deep, city-wide quiet before dawn hangs heavy, but the ludus beneath it thrums with a different energy. Low, tense, electric. You splash icy water from the jug onto your face, the shock clearing the last cobwebs of uneasy sleep. Pull on your tunic, grab your kit. Its familiar weight is a cold anchor against your hip. Outside your door, the pre-dawn chill is sharp, cutting through the usual smells, leaving only dust and damp stone. Torches gutter along the walls, their smoke stinging your eyes. Shapes move in the gloom. Gladiators emerging from the barracks like ghosts, stretching stiff limbs, adjusting straps. No shouts. Just the soft scrape of sandals, the clink of metal, the low murmur of voices too taut for conversation. You head straight for the mess portico. A fire blazes in the hearth, its warmth a false comfort. Bowls of barley porridge are already being passed, thicker than usual. Eat, a kitchen slave mutters, shoving a bowl into your hands. Long day. You force down a few mouthfuls. It tastes like ash. Around you, fighters eat mechanically. Some gulp water. One young Hoplomachus leans against a pillar, visibly trembling. Another, a secutor, methodically oils the joints of his helmet. Mainstream historical fact. Gladiators were meticulously categorized by fighting style and armor. A secutor, chaser, like the one oiling his gear, was heavily armored to fight the nimble Retiarius, Netman, recognizable by his fish-crested helmet, Gallia, and distinctive arm guard, Manica. You see the Manica on his left arm now, thick leather studded with metal. You finish the porridge, the warmth doing little to ease the knot in your stomach. Time for the final checks. You move towards the fighters assembling near the gate, your kit banging softly against your leg. The Lanista stalks among them, a dark presence, barking last-minute corrections to stances, slapping a back here, glaring there. His eyes find you. Check them, all of them. No weaknesses walking onto that sand. His voice is low, dangerous. You start with Darkus. The Thracian stands tall, his bruised ribs bound tightly beneath his leather armor. You probe quickly. He grunts but holds firm. Good, don't twist. He nods, jaw set, eyes fixed on the still dark sky. Next, Marcus. The old Mamillo is already encased in his heavy armor, his bad knee braced beneath greaves. He stamps his foot experimentally. Solid as the Via Appia, he rumbles. You hope it's true. Quirky tidbit. Some fighters drank a concoction containing charioteer's urine before bouts, believing it transferred speed and luck. You notice a nervous Retiarius, discreetly swigging from a small jar. You don't ask. 3 light jokes try to surface. 1, calling the pre-dawn chill nature's anxiety cure. 2, dubbing the charioteer, urine jar, liquid stage fright. 3, mentally nicknaming the trembling Hoplomachus breakfast revisor. You reach Felix. He looks pale, clammy. The sling is off, his injured arm tucked close to his body, barely protected by his minimal Retiarius gear. Padded arm guard only on his weapon arm, shoulder bare. The swelling is visible even in the torchlight. Felix, you begin. He shakes his head sharply, eyes wide with a desperate fear. Don't, please. I can do it. You see the Lanista watching. You check the shoulder quickly. Hot, stiff. You smear on a thick layer of honey mixed with a potent numbing agent, a paste of crushed poppy seeds, and mandrake root. Risky, but all you have. This will dull it. For a while, he nods jerkily. Historians still argue whether gladiators experienced battle frenzy furor, akin to modern descriptions of combat stress, or if their training fostered a terrifyingly detached professionalism. Looking at Felix's terror and Marcus's grim focus, you see both possibilities side by side. Gavius stands apart, calm, methodically checking his scutum, shield's edge. His scar looks fine. He meets your gaze. Ready, Medus. His voice is steady as stone. You give him a curt nod. No words needed. A younger fighter suddenly lurches to the side of the portico and vomits his porridge onto the stones. No one mocks him. The Lanista ignores it. It's a common ritual. The sky begins to lighten, a thin band of gray smudging the black above the rooftops. The city's waking sounds start, distant carts, a cock crowing far off. But closer, a new sound builds. Faint at first, then swelling. A low, distant roar. The crowd, gathering at the Flavian Amphitheater already, hours before the start. Hunger in that sound. Anticipation. It vibrates through the stones under your feet, travels up your legs, settles cold in your gut. The gladiators hear it. Heads turn towards the sound. Some straighten, squaring shoulders. Others flinch. Felix closes his eyes. The Lanista claps his hands once, a sharp crack. Form up! Gates open. His voice cuts through the murmur. The heavy iron-bound gate groans open, revealing the still shadowed street. Torchlight spills out. The gladiators move, falling into a loose column. Armor glints dully. Weapons, real weapons now, sharpened steel, catch the torchlight. The scent of oiled leather, metal, and rising sweat intensifies. You fall into step near the rear, your medical kit suddenly feeling heavier than ever, a stark contrast to the weapons of war. This isn't practice. This is the butcher's yard. The distant roar grows louder, a beast waking. You take a deep breath of the cold, dusty air. It tastes like metal and dread. The street swallows the column. Your sandals slap the cobbles, echoing the marching feet ahead. The roar pulls you forward, an inexorable tide. Towards the sand, towards the blood, towards the work only just beginning. The roar isn't distant anymore. It's a physical force, vibrating through the soles of your sandals as you shuffle through a massive shadowed archway, the Porta Libitinaria, the Gate of Death, named for Libitina, goddess of funerals. Charming. The relative quiet of the pre-dawn streets vanishes, replaced by the amphitheater's echoing underbelly. Cool, damp air washes over you, thick with the smell of wet stone, animal dung from yesterday's beast hunts, venichones, stale sweat, and something metallic. Blood rusting on sand, perhaps, or just the tang of fear. Torches flicker in sconces, casting long, leaping shadows that make the rough-hewn tunnels feel alive. You're in the hypogeum, the Flavian amphitheater's vast hidden guts. Mainstream historical fact. This subterranean labyrinth beneath the arena floor contained lifts, pulleys, cages for beasts, and holding pens for gladiators, allowing for dramatic, surprise entrances. Right now, it's cows. Stagehands haul heavy ropes. Slaves push carts laden with props for the midday executions. Caged animals snarl and pace. A leopard's low growl vibrates your ribs. Gladiators from different ludi mill about, segregated by school. You spot Alexander across the crowded passage, already checking a fighter's bandage. He gives you a curt nod. Survival trumps rivalry down here. Your fighters cluster near a damp wall, a pocket of tense silence in the din. The lanista barks final orders, his voice barely audible over the thunderous stomping from 80,000 sandals directly above. Boom, boom, boom. The crowd's rhythmic demand for blood shakes dust from the ceiling. Dacus adjusts his helmet's grill, his knuckles white on his psyche, dagger. Marcus slams a fist against his bronze breastplate, the clang, swallowed by the noise. Felix sways slightly, his injured arm held stiffly. You move to him. Felix, the paste holding? He nods, eyes wide, fixed on the heavy wooden trapdoor in the ceiling, his potential exit to the sand. His breathing is shallow, fast. You offer a small cup of watered wine with a heavy drop of poppy syrup. Slow sips, steady your nerves. He gulps it, ignoring the slow part. Quirky tidbit? Some fighters spat on their weapons or touched the arena wall before combat, believing it transferred the crowd's hostile energy back at them. You see a secutor from another school meticulously spitting on his gladius. The lanista shoves Gavius forward. You're up first, provocator style, against that brute from Pompeii. Gavius just grunts, hefting his rectangular scutum shield. His opponent, 20 paces away, is a mountain of muscle in similar gear. Helmet with a high crest, short sword. They glare across the crowded tunnel. Historians still argue whether gladiators felt genuine camaraderie or if it was purely a survival pact forged in the ludus, shattered the moment the sand swallowed their feet. 3 light jokes try to pierce the dread. 1, calling the hypogeum Rome's fanciest basement. 2, dubbing the spitting fighter the human rain cloud. 3, thinking of the lanista's pep talk as motivational growling. A grating rumble echoes down the tunnel. A massive counterweight lift, Sagmarius, nearby lurches upwards, carrying a cage holding a snarling bear towards the arena floor. The noise intensifies. The crowd roars approval. Your skin prickles. It's starting. Priests move through the gloom, swinging censers that release thin trails of pungent incense. Offerings to Dispater, god of the underworld, or maybe just an attempt to mask the animal stench. A slave rushes past, splashing water on the dusty floor. You grip your kit. Scalpels, bone saw, linen, honey, vinegar, poppy, ready. A sharp trumpet blast cuts through the subterranean roar. Silence falls like a hammer in the tunnel, sudden and absolute. All eyes snap upwards. A trapdoor creaks open directly above Gavius, bathing him in a blinding rectangle of harsh sunlight and unleashing a deafening wall of sound. Screams, cheers, whistles. Sand drifts down, glittering in the shaft of light. Gavius takes a slow, deep breath. He doesn't look back. He adjusts his grip on his shield, steps onto the wooden lift platform embedded in the floor, and raises his sword in salute. A stagehand yanks a lever. Chains rattle. The platform lurches upwards, carrying Gavius towards the light and the roar. The trapdoor slams shut behind him with a final, echoing thud. The relative darkness feels deeper now. The tunnel holds its breath. You hear only the frantic panting of the fighters, the distant snarl of the leopard, the drip of water somewhere, and then, from above, faint but clear through the stones, the clash of swords. Clang, a pause. Clang, clang. The crowd's roar surges, ebbs, surges again. A monstrous wave responding to unseen movements on the sand. Darkus closes his eyes, lips moving in silent prayer. Marcus tightens a strap on his greave. Felix stares at thee. The trapdoor seals shut, swallowing Gavius into the roar. The tunnel holds its breath. Sand trickles down like a silent timer. Clang! A muffled impact vibrates the stone. Scrape! Clunk! The crowd's roar swells. A beast scenting anticipation. Darkus murmurs prayers. Marcus adjusts his stance. Felix stares blankly, sweat gleaming on his lip despite the chill. The poppy's haze is visible in his eyes. Then, a unified shout erupts from above, approval or disappointment. The main trapdoor stays closed. Instead, the smaller Porta Sana Vivaria, Gate of the Healthy, groans open. Two slaves stumble through, supporting Gavius. His shield is gone, helmet dented. A deep gash mars his thigh, darkening the sand on his greaves. He's conscious, grimacing. Mainstream historical fact. Gladiators could be spared, missus, by the editor or crowd acclaim, waving mappe, handkerchiefs, preserving valuable fighters. Gavius earned his reprieve, but at a cost. Medicus, a slave calls. You're already moving. They lower him against the damp wall. The crowd's roar fades to background noise as you kneel. The wound is serious, a long slice high on the leg. Bright blood flows steadily. Tourniquet first. You cinch a leather strap high on his thigh. The flow slows. Gavius grits his teeth. Shield strap broke? He grunts, managing a tight smile. Quirky tidbit? Arena sand was often specially imported. Finer, paler, sometimes mixed with powdered marble to starkly contrast the blood. You see the proof staining Gavius's leg. Cleaning comes next. Vinegar washes away grit, revealing torn muscle. Stitches are needed, deep ones. He refuses poppy syrup. Clear head, tough. You thread a bronze needle. Hold him, you tell the slaves. Your hands work swiftly, pulling flesh together, knotting linen thread. Each tug draws a sharp breath from Gavius, but no cry. The tunnel's chaos swirls, lifts rising, priests chanting, but your focus is absolute. Blood, thread, Gavius's breathing. Historians still debate whether arena-side interventions truly saved lives or merely delayed inevitable infection. Speed is your only weapon. 3 light jokes flicker. 1, the tourniquet as the crowd-pleasing grip. 2, vinegar as victory rinse. 3, Gavius refusing poppy, the clarity special. Bandages next. Honey-soaked linen pressed over the stitches, bound tight. bleeding controlled. Can you stand? With help, he rises, leaning heavily. Back to the ludus. Rest. No weight, you instruct a handler. Gavius nods, pain etched deep, but alive. One saved. The moment shatters. The Porta Libertinaria, gate of death, creaks open. Attendants drag a limp figure by the ankles, a Murmillo from another school. His helmet is off, face slack. A single, brutal wound pierces his armor low on the torso. Dark blood trails on the sand, gone. They haul him towards a side passage marked by Libetina's owl symbol, the morgue. The Lanista watches, impassive, a stark ledger entry. Before you can breathe, a shout echoes, "Medicus! Here! Now!" A handler from your school waves frantically near a lift. A young Hoplomachus writhes on stone, clutching his abdomen. A discarded trident nearby, one prong stained. He'd been pulled down just after combat. The injury's location is dire, low stomach. His face is ashen, sweat-drenched. Shock is taking hold. Mainstream fact. Abdominal wounds were near universally fatal in antiquity. Medics knew internal repair was impossible. You kneel. The damage is profound. One puncture is dangerously deep. Options vanish. Poppy syrup is the only mercy. A heavy dose eases between his lips. His terrified eyes lock on yours. Hurts, Medis. His grip is weak on your arm. You hold his gaze. Easy now. The poppy clouds the pain, then the awareness. His grip loosens. Breathing turns shallow. The handler looks away. You stay until the quiet comes. Another loss. The kit weighs like stone. You stand, wiping hands mechanically. The handler mutters about removal. You nod. The tunnel sounds blur. Roars, clangs, snarls. A dissonant hum. You lean against cold stone, closing your eyes briefly. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy. The list feels fragile. A hand grips your shoulder, the lanista. His eyes are flint. Felix is next, against a secutor. Be ready. He nods towards the trembling Retiarius, being urged onto a lift platform. Felix's gaze darts to you, raw terror in his eyes. His bad shoulder is exposed, vulnerable. The sand calls. Your reserves feel thin. The lift mechanism groans, chains rattling like skeletal fingers as the platform carrying Felix lurches upwards. His wide, terrified eyes lock onto yours for one final heartbeat before the blinding rectangle of sunlight swallows him whole. The trapdoor slams shut. Silence crashes down in the tunnel, heavier than before. You stand frozen, kit in hand, staring at the closed door. Above, the crowd's roar shifts. A curious murmur, then a swelling wave of anticipation. The distinctive clash of weapons echoes faintly through the stone. The heavy thud of a secutor's shield, the lighter whisper snap of a Retiarius is net. You can't see, but you feel the fight. Every muffled impact vibrates through the soles of your sandals. The crowd's gasps, cheers, and groans are a distorted symphony filtering down. You imagine Felix, darting, weaving, trying to keep distance, favoring his bad arm. The net flies, a collective, "Ooh!" from above. Did it catch? A heavier clang, shield deflecting trident. The roar surges. He's holding his own. Hope flickers, fragile. Mainstream historical fact, Retiari, like Felix, fighting with net and trident, were often pitted against heavily armored secutors, a classic matchup symbolizing agility versus brute strength, fishermen versus fish. The crowd loved the visual contrast. Suddenly, a different sound cuts through. A sharp, high-pitched cry of pure agony, unmistakable even through the stone. Felix. It's cut short by a sickening, wet thud. The crowd's reaction is instant, a unified, horrified gasp, then an eerie waiting silence. Your blood runs cold. Quirky tidbit: some spectators believed the direction a fallen gladiator's blood spurted predicted future grain prices or political fortunes. Morbid divination. The silence shatters into frantic, arguing shouts from the crowd. Mite! Release him. Some scream. Yugula! Kill him! Others bellow. The fate of your fighter rests on this deafening plebiscite of bloodlust. The lanista stands rigid beside you, staring upwards, his knuckles white. Historians still fiercely debate whether the crowd's thumbs down signal for death was a historical reality or a later myth popularized by art. The actual gestures, mappe, waved for mercy, tumsprest for death, remain frustratingly unclear. 3 light jokes try to pierce the dread. 1, calling the crowd's roar Rome's worst choir. 2, dubbing the unseen secutor the invisible anvil. 3, thinking of the lanista's tension as investment anxiety disorder. A sharp trumpet blast silences the chaos above. Decision made. The Porta Sana Vivaria groans open again, not the gate of death. Relief floods you, cold and shaky. Arena slaves stumble out, dragging Felix. He's conscious, whimpering, cradling his left arm. His net is gone. The trident lies snapped on the sand beside him. His shoulder, the bad one, is a ruin. Not cut, but destroyed. The joint is visibly dislocated again, grotesquely deformed, swelling already painting the skin purple. Worse, the force of the secutor's shield bash that likely caused it seems to have snapped the collarbone, a sharp edge tinting the skin near his neck. Clear space, you bark, snapping open your kit. Slaves lower him onto the damp stone. Felix's face is paper white, shock glazing his eyes. He keeps repeating, net slipped, arm gave, through chattering teeth. Vinegar first. You pour it over the shoulder. He screams, arching off the ground. The dislocation is horrific. The head of the humorist jammed high and forward. The broken collarbone is a secondary nightmare. Mainstream fact: compound fractures, bone-breaking skin, were often death sentences due to infection. Luckily, Felix's collarbone fracture, while severe, remains internal. Setting the shoulder takes brute force and precision. Poppy syrup? He gulps it desperately this time. You need him still. You nod to 2 burly slaves. They pin his legs and good shoulder. You brace your foot against his ribs for leverage. Grasp the mangled arm above and below the dislocation. Felix whimpers, eyes rolling back. Now, you grunt. You pull down and out with every ounce of strength, twisting slightly. A deep, wet pop click grates through bone and muscle. The joint slides back into its socket. Felix goes limp, unconscious from the pain or the poppy. 1 disaster managed. The collarbone remains. No setting that here. You align it as best you can by feel through the swelling, then immobilize the entire arm. A wooden splint runs from armpit to hip on his left side, binding the arm tightly against his torso. Linen bandages, soaked in water to stiffen, wrap everything into a rigid cocoon. Honey smeared over the strained, bruised skin near the collarbone. It's a field dressing, crude but vital. Stabilize. Prevent further damage. Get him back to the ludus. As you finish tying the last bandage, the lanista looms. He stares down at the unconscious Felix, then at the intricate splinting. His expression is unreadable. Will he fight again? The question is flat, cold. Economics, not concern. You look at the rigid bundle of bandages and splint, the ashen face. Not with a trident, you say quietly. Maybe a shield. In 6 months. Maybe. The lanista's jaw tightens. He turns away, already scanning the remaining fighters. Felix's value just plummeted. Slaves lift the unconscious gladiator onto a stretcher. As they carry him away into the gloom towards the exit tunnels, the Lanista claps his hands. Dacus, you're next. Thrakes versus Hoplomachus. Look sharp. Dacus snaps his helmet visor down. The metallic clank is final. He hefts his small square shield and curved psyche. His bruised ribs are bound beneath his armor. He steps onto the waiting lift platform without a backward glance. The trapdoor opens. Sunlight and roaring hunger pour down. Dacus raises his sword in salute. The chains rattle. He ascends into the light. You wipe vinegar and blood from your hands, watching the sand sift down from the closed trapdoor. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy. The litany feels worn thin. Felix's whimpers echo in your mind. Gavius's blood stains the stone nearby. The Celt's fevered gaze. The amphitheater's belly rumbles with unseen violence. You take a slow breath, the air thick with dust, dung, and despair. Your kit is lighter on bandages, heavier on dread. You turn towards the sound of Dacus's first clash above. Ready? Again. The iron gate of the Ludus groans shut behind you, muffling the city's distant roar like a hand clasped over a screaming mouth. The sudden quiet is profound, almost violent after the amphitheater's ceaseless thunder. Dusk paints the courtyard in bruised purples and deep blues. Torches flicker, casting long, weary shadows that dance over sand still churned by the day's drills. The air here smells familiar again. Dust, sweat, liniment, the faint tang of the forge, but laced with the sharper scent of fresh blood and exhaustion. You slump against the cool stone wall just inside the gate, your kit slipping from numb fingers to thud softly on the packed earth. The weight wasn't just physical. The journey back through the twilight streets was a blur of strained silence. Gavius, pale and sweating, was half-carried, his bandaged leg leaving faint smears of honey and blood on the cobbles. Felix, mercifully unconscious still, jostled on his stretcher, the rigid splint making him look like a broken doll swaddled for burial. Dacus walked stiffly beside them, helmet under his arm, the adrenaline drain leaving his face hollow, the bruises beneath his armor likely deepening into new constellations of pain. The Lanista stalked ahead, a dark cloud of calculation, mainstream historical fact. Returning gladiators, victors or spared, often received celebratory feasts or medical care, but the atmosphere in a ludus after games was typically grim, a mix of relief, grief for the lost, and the looming dread of the next bout. Relief is scarce tonight. Slaves move quietly in the gloom, guiding the wounded towards the barracks. You push off the wall, the movement sending aches radiating through your shoulders and knees. Time for the real work. Your taberna medica feels like a sanctuary, even smelling sharply of vinegar and old herbs. You light the oil lamp. Its small, steady flame is a defiance against the encroaching dark and the day's chaos. First priority, inventory. Bandages are critically low. Honey jar scraped nearly clean. Vinegar amphora worryingly light. Poppy syrup flask, you lift it, lighter than it should be. A significant amount missing since this morning. Stolen? Administered? You file it away. A cold nod of suspicion forming. Quirky tidbit? Some Romans believed that medicine stolen under a waning moon held greater potency, leading to pilfering from apothecaries and looty stores. Maybe someone sought moonlit magic tonight. You grab fresh supplies and head to the barracks. The air inside is thick with pain and fatigue. Low groans, the rasp of labored breathing. Gavius lies on his bunk, leg elevated on straw sacks, face tight. You kneel, unwrap the arena bandages. The stitches hold, but the wound is angry red, hot to the touch. Inflammation's red flag. You clean it meticulously with precious vinegar, reapply honey, and bind it with fresh linen. Hurts like Hades' backside? He grunts. Good, you reply. Means you're alive. You offer Poppy tears. He refuses. Need my wits. 3 light jokes struggle. 1, Gavius's leg as Hades' welcome mat. 2, The stolen poppy as lunar loan. 3. Yourself as the night shift patcher. Felix is conscious now, propped awkwardly. His eyes are glazed with pain and poppy residue. The elaborate splint holds his arm and shoulder rigid. You check his fingers? Circulation good. The collarbone area is massively swollen, purple-black. You can't do much but ensure the bindings aren't too tight and offer another small dose of syrup. He swallows it wordlessly, tears tracking through the grime on his cheeks. Not from physical pain alone. His career as a retiarius is likely over. Historians still argue whether gladiators crippled in the arena were pensioned off, sold, or simply discarded when their value vanished. Felix's terrified eyes seem to know the answer. Dacus sits on the edge of his bunk, slowly unbuckling his armor. You help him lift the cuirass. Bruises bloom across his ribs like storm clouds, darkening the old honey poultice stains. He winces as you probe. Took a shield bash, right on the spot. You apply a fresh honey and comfrey paste, binding his torso tightly. Lucky it wasn't the sword. You mutter. He manages a tired smirk. Made him miss. 1. A flicker of pride. Small victories. Marcus is already snoring, his bad knee carefully positioned. The young fighter with the rash sleeps peacefully. But down the row, an empty bunk yawns, the celt space hastily filled with fresh straw, but still a void. A reminder. You move from bunk to bunk, checking a split lip, cleaning a shallow forearm cut, reapplying liniment to strained muscles. The routine is mechanical, a balm against the day's horrors. Mainstream fact. Roman medics employed various pain management techniques beyond poppies, including mandrake root, henbane, and surprisingly effective localized pressure or cold compresses where possible. Finally, you return to your room. The lamp's flame casts long, trembling shadows dance as you stare at your hands, etched with grime and the faint, stubborn scent of vinegar clinging to your skin. You scrub them in the water jug until your skin stings, but the memory of the day's work lingers like a ghost touch. The silence of the ludus is profound now, broken only by muffled coughs and restless shifts from the barracks. This isn't peace. It's the heavy stillness of exhaustion settling over everything like stone dust. You force down a chunk of bread, washing it away with sharp-tasting water. It's flavorless, dry. The missing poppy syrup weighs on your thoughts. Was it fear, a fighter steeling himself for tomorrow? Or something else entirely? You blow out the lamp. Darkness envelops you, thick and absolute. Settling onto your palate, straw prickles through the thin fabric. Every muscle aches. Your mind spins through the day. The shadowed gate, Gavius's gritted teeth, Felix's stifled cry, Dacus raising his blade into the arena light, the weight of your instruments, the mingled scents, always the scents. Dust, sand, herbs, fear. Eyes closed, the memories sharpen in the dark. A distant dog's howl echoes through the city. A lonely sound against the ludus stillness. Sleep feels miles away. Memories press in like a siege. Somewhere, a low whimper escapes a sleeper. The sound is fragile, fleeting. You grasp for your mental anchor, counting tools like a weary lullaby. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy, repeat. The rhythm feels thin tonight. Dawn will come too soon, bringing dust, drills, and the slow turn toward the roaring sand once more. Rest is a stranger you can't entertain. The night stretches long, and the wounded lie waiting. The celt's breathing is the loudest sound in the barracks, a wet, rasping rattle that cuts through the low moans and snores like a saw on green wood. You kneel beside his bunk, the oil lamp casting a small pool of light that feels insignificant against the pressing dark. His skin glistens with fever sweat, hot and papery under your touch. The leg wound, even beneath fresh bandages, radiates a sickly heat. The garlic and honey poultice did its best, but the red streaks spidering up his thigh tell the truth. Infection's tide has turned to flood. Mainstream historical fact. Before germ theory, Roman medics like Galen attributed infections to bad humors, or an imbalance of the 4 bodily fluids, blood, phlegm, black bile, yellow bile, leading to treatments aimed at restoring balance rather than fighting bacteria. You know only that the battle inside him is being lost. His eyes flutter open, glassy and unfocused. Cold, Médis, so cold, he whispers, though his skin burns. You adjust the thin blanket. A slave has already piled extra straw near the small brazier in the corner, but its feeble heat doesn't reach this far. Quirky tidbit? Some Romans believed placing a hot brick wrapped in lamb's wool on the stomach drew out fever demons. You wish it were that simple. Instead, you offer sips of cool water infused with willow bark, a feeble attempt to ease the ache and cool the fire within. He swallows weakly, water trickling down his chin. Pre-light jokes die unborn in your throat. Gallows humor deserts you here. You mentally call the brazier the demon discouragement device, the willow bark tea ghost chaser brew, and the distant city sounds Rome's insomnia orchestra. None land, not tonight. Gavius, propped up nearby, watches silently from his own bunk, his bandaged legs stiff. Felix drifts in and out of poppy-induced oblivion. Dacus pretends to sleep. They all hear it. The Celt's breathing hitches, pauses agonizingly long, then resumes with a deeper, more liquid rattle. Each pause feels like a cliff edge. Historians still fiercely debate whether gladiators view death in the ludus with the same resigned fatalism as death in the arena, or if the lack of spectacle made it feel more intimate, more tragic. Watching the young Celt fight for air, you suspect it's the latter. You check the pulse at his neck, thready, fluttering like a trapped bird. Too fast, too weak. His lips are tinged blue. You know the signs. The body's desperate struggle is winding down. The poppy syrup is gone, stolen or used. Comfort is all you have left to offer. You dampen a cloth with cool water and wipe his brow. He flinches slightly at the touch, his eyes finding yours for a fleeting second. A flicker of awareness, perhaps fear, before the glaze returns. Just rest, you murmur, the words feeling hollow. Easy now. You keep wiping his brow, the rhythm a small anchor in the suffocating dread. His hand, lying outside the blanket, twitches. You cover it with yours. The skin is terrifyingly hot, yet his grip is weak, insubstantial. The rasping breaths grow further apart. The pauses stretch longer. The barracks holds its breath. Even the usual snores and coughs have ceased. The only sounds are the Celt's fading struggle and the soft crackle of the brazier. His chest barely rises now. The rattle softens, becomes a sigh. Then, stillness. Utter, profound stillness. The air itself seems to freeze. You hold your own breath, fingers still resting on his pulse point. Nothing. No flutter. No rise. His eyes stare past you, fixed on the shadowed ceiling, empty. The heat begins to leach from his skin under your touch, replaced by a creeping coolness. It's over. No fanfare. No arena roar. Just silence and the scent of sickness and extinguished life. You gently close his eyelids with your thumb. The gesture feels inadequate, a tiny ritual against the vastness of the void. You pull the blanket up over his face. The rough wool settles, a final shroud. The sound of fabric against stillness is deafening. You sit back on your heels, the stone floor cold through your tunic. The lamplight flickers, painting long, wavering shadows on the wall behind the covered form. Mortality's whisper just became a shout. Gavius lets out a slow, shaky breath. Felix murmurs incoherently in his sleep. Dacus turns over, his back to the bunk. The lanista, who had been standing silently in the doorway like a specter, steps forward. His face is impassive in the flickering light. He looks at the covered shape, then at you. Before dawn, get it cleaned up. Burn the straw. His voice is low, devoid of inflection. An order, not a request. Another logistical problem solved. He turns and walks out, his footsteps echoing briefly in the sudden, heavy quiet. The spell breaks. Men shift uncomfortably. Someone coughs. The brazier crackles. Life, such as it is, resumes its grim flow. But the air is thicker now, charged with unspoken dread. The Celt's empty bunk is a raw wound in the dim light. His death wasn't on the sand, witnessed by thousands, but it's a brutal echo of it. a stark reminder that the arena's shadow stretches long, reaching even into the sanctuary of the ludus. His fight ended here, in the dark, on a straw mattress. No glory, no thumbs up or down, just silence and the scent of vinegar and defeat. You blow out the lamp beside the bunk, plunging the corner into deeper shadow. The practicalities loom, organizing slaves for the grim removal, ensuring the straw mattress is burned thoroughly, scrubbing the bunk frame with strong vinegar, preventing the spread of whatever invisible enemy felled him. More work, always more work. As you stand, your knees protest, stiff and aching. You glance towards your taberna medica. The instruments wait. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy. The list feels incomplete tonight. You need to check Gavius's stitches again soon. Felix's splint, Dacus's bruises. The living demand attention, pushing aside the stillness of the dead. Dawn is still hours away, a gray promise that feels more like a threat. The night isn't done with you yet. You take a slow breath, tasting dust and despair, and turn towards the next task. The silence behind you feels heavier than your kit. Gray light seeps through the barracks' high, narrow windows, washing the room in a cold, tired hue. The space where the celt lay is unnervingly empty. Freshly scrubbed stone smells sharply of vinegar, overpowering the lingering ghosts of sweat and sickness. Slaves moved like shadows before dawn, carrying away the straw mattress, the blanket, the remnants of a life condensed to things needing burning. The bunk frame stands bare, a skeletal reminder. Gavius watches you check his stitches, his face a mask. Felix drifts, anchored by poppy syrup. Dacus avoids looking at the empty space. The lanista is already in the courtyard, his voice a low growl rousing fighters. Dawn brings no relief, only the resumption of the grind. You finish Gavius's dressing. The wound is angry but holding. Walk slowly today. Test the weight, but lightly. He grunts, a sound like stones shifting. Sand's softer than these stones. Mainstream historical fact. Roman concrete, Eopus caementicium, used volcanic ash, making structures incredibly durable. A durability the ludus, walls embody, trapping centuries of sweat and strife within their unyielding embrace. You move to Felix. His splint holds firm, the swelling a livid purple-black landscape beneath the bandages. Pain etches deep lines around his eyes, even in the haze. You adjust a binding, offer another careful sip of syrup. His value plummets with every dose. Historians still argue whether crippled gladiators were more often sold to mines, became doctors, trainers, or simply vanished into Rome's underbelly. Felix's vacant stare suggests he knows his fate hinges on the lanista, sledger, not mercy. Dacus stands stiffly as you rebind his bruised ribs. The honey-comfrey paste has cooled the worst inflammation. Feels like I wrestled Hercules, he mutters, rotating carefully. You tighten the linen. Next time, dodge the shield. He offers a ghost of a smirk. Easier said than done, Metis. 3 light jokes surface, brittle but necessary. 1, calling the vinegar smell dawn perfume. 2, dubbing Felix's splint the retirement package. 3, Gavius's comment about sand being softer as optimism before breakfast. The courtyard beckons, a stage reset for the same brutal play. Fighters stretch sore muscles, drill with wooden swords against posts, lift weights, the rhythmic thud-thud-thud, a counterpoint to the city waking beyond the walls. The lanista prowls, hawk-eyed, snapping corrections. You see the new faces, replacements purchased or transferred, raw and wide-eyed. Absorbing the ludus is grim rhythm. 1, a hulking Gaul, favors his left ankle already. Your next project. Quirky tidbit, some ludi kept caged bears or boars nearby. The fighters believe smelling the beast's aggression built their own ferocity. You catch the musky scent drifting from the animal pens near the forge. Maybe they had a point, or maybe it was just another layer of stench. Your taberna medica needs restocking. Bandages first. You sit in the doorway, morning light warming your back, rolling strips of rough linen. The repetitive motion is soothing, mindless. Honey needs decanting from the large, sticky amphora into smaller jars, vinegar refilled. The poppy flask, you lift it, still lighter than it should be. You scan the yard. Suspicion settles on a wiry Nuthrex, his eyes darting nervously. Or perhaps the sullen kitchen slave who avoids your gaze. Desperate times breed desperate theft. You stash the flask deeper in your chest. Mainstream fact. Poppy cultivation was widespread in the Roman Empire for medicine, sleep aids, and recreational use, leading to surprisingly sophisticated, if dangerous, preparations documented in texts like Dioscorides De Materia Medica. A sharp cry cuts the air, not pain, but frustration. Two murmalones, sparring, their dulled blades clashing. One stumbles, twisting awkwardly as he falls. He clutches his knee, face contorted. The lanista barks your name. You grab your half-rolled bandages and kit, striding across the sand. The fighter, the new Gaul, pants, gripping his swollen ankle. Twisted it, he gasps, shame mixing with pain. You kneel, probing. Ligaments strained, not torn. Cold water from a bucket nearby. Soak. Then a tight linen wrap. Rest it. Elevate. You point to a bench. The lanista scowls but nods. Downtime is grudgingly accepted for now. As you finish, a shadow falls over you. Felix stands nearby, swaying slightly, propped against the barracks wall. He's managed to hobble out, drawn by the sun or the noise. His good hand grips the splint binding his ruined shoulder and collarbone. His eyes, clearer now but filled with a different kind of fog, despair, fix on the Gaul being helped to the bench. He sees the easy camaraderie, the shared purpose, the path forward that's closed to him. His jaw trembles. He turns away abruptly, lurching back towards the barracks gloom, a figure already fading from the ludus. Is harsh light. A silent exit, more final than any arena gate. You watch him go, the rolled bandages rough in your hand. The sun climbs higher, baking the sand, intensifying the smells of oiled leather, hot metal, and animal musk. The drills intensify. The thud, thud, thud resumes. Gavius tests his leg, limping near the wall. Dacus spars with controlled ferocity. The new Gaul watches, frustration etched on his face. The cycle grinds on. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages. Honey, vinegar, poppy. The list remains. The faces change. The sand drinks the same sweat. The weight settles back onto your shoulders, familiar as your kit. Another day in the butcher's yard, patching men for the slaughterhouse. You turn back to your linen. Rolling, rolling, the only rhythm you can control. The rhythmic thud, thud, thud of wooden swords against posts becomes the ludus, its heartbeat, a relentless pulse under the climbing sun. You finish rolling the last bandage, the rough linen a familiar weight in your hands. The new Gaul sulks on his bench, ankle propped, watching the drills with hungry eyes. Felix's empty space in the barracks feels colder than the shade. The lanista's voice, a constant low growl, stops abruptly. He stands near the gate, arms crossed, staring at a wax tablet a nervous-looking clerk holds out. His face is stone, but the tension in his shoulders radiates like heat off the sand. You know that look. Inventory time. The ledger. He balks a name. Dacus. Dacus lowers his practiced sword, wiping sweat from his brow. He approaches the lanista, posture stiff, favoring his bruised ribs beneath the armor. The lanista taps the tablet. 2 wins. 1 misses. Minor bruising. Healing. He states it flatly, a butcher assessing meat quality. Dacus nods, jaw tight. The lanista makes a mark. Next, Gavius. Gavius limps over, the movement controlled but painful. The lanista's eyes scan the bandaged leg. 1 misses. Deep laceration. Downtime, 4 weeks minimum. Maybe more. His tone implies lost revenue. Gavius meets his gaze, unflinching. Be ready in 3. The lanista snorts, makes another mark. Quirky tidbit? Some lanistae reportedly consulted astrologers before major purchases or matches, believing celestial alignments influenced a fighter's luck or mortality rate. This lanista seems to trust only wax and coin. Then, the inevitable. Felix. The lanista spits the name. He glances towards the barracks, then back at the tablet. Severe shoulder and collarbone damage. Useless for the net. Maybe shield work in half a year. Maybe. He makes a decisive slashing mark on the wax. The sound is final. Felix's fate is sealed not by an arena wound, but by this cold calculus. Historians still argue fiercely whether ludi operated primarily as brutal businesses with precise profit, loss margins, or if complex patronage and social climbing among elite owners muddied the financial waters. Watching the lanista, it's grim efficiency. Business seems brutally clear. 3 light jokes feel like ashes. 1, calling the ledger the Book of Broken Bones. 2, Gavius's promise to be ready in 3 weeks as optimistic accounting. 3, the astrologer consultation as stardust budgeting. Replacements? The clerk murmurs, stylus poised. The lanista scans the yard, his gaze settling on the new hulking Gaul nursing his ankle. Him! If the ankle mends, price renegotiated. His eyes flick to a wiry thrakes, drilling nearby. And him! Needs seasoning, but cheap. He names a third, a young secutor, looking barely old enough to shave. Potential. The clerk scribbles. Gladiators are tallied, assessed, and replaced like cracked amphorae. Mainstream historical fact. Gladiator prices varied wildly based on skill, reputation, and specialization. A top-tier retiarius, like Felix in his prime, could cost as much as a small farm, while raw recruits were bought for the price of a decent mule. Felix's value now, less than the splintwood. The lanista dismisses Gavius and Daucus with a curt wave. They return to the drills, the assessment hanging over them like dust. Gavius's limp seems more pronounced. Daucus strikes his practice post with renewed, almost savage force. The lanista turns his stony gaze on you. You, supplies. It's not a question. You list them. Bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy syrup. Mentioning the theft feels pointless now. He grunts. See the clerk. Half what you ask. Make it last. Austerity bites. You'll be washing bandages, stretching honey with water, praying no major wounds bleed through your rationing. As you turn to find the clerk, movement catches your eye near the animal pens. The wiry new thrakes, the one you suspected of the poppy theft, is crouched, not near the pens, but near the forge's cooling ashes. He's frantically rubbing something dark and sticky onto a raw weeping burn on his forearm. Soot? Tar scraped from the forge bricks. His face is pinched with pain. Quack remedy or desperate theft aftermath? You hesitate. Reporting him means punishment, maybe sail to the mines. His eyes dart up, meeting yours. Panic flares, then resignation. He scrambles to cover the burn with his tunic sleeve. You look away, walking towards the clerk's table near the gate. Sometimes, mercy is silence. The ludus grinds down everyone. The clerk, a thin man with ink-stained fingers, hands over a miserly bundle, a small sack of coarse linen scraps, a clay jar of the cheapest, thinnest vinegar, a tiny pot of honey already crystallizing at the edges, and a minuscule flask of poppy syrup, barely enough for 2 doses. Lanista's orders, he mutters, avoiding your eyes. You take the meager supplies. The weight is laughable compared to the need. Scalpel, forceps, probi, bandages barely. Honey, watery. Vinegar, weak. Poppy, drops. The kit feels hollow. Back in your tabana medica, you stare at the pathetic haul. The forge soot treatment flashes in your mind. Desperation breeds dangerous medicine. You carefully decant the precious poppy drops into a smaller vial, hiding it deep within your chest. The rest you arrange on the shelf, a pitiful arsenal against the arena's hunger. Outside, the drills intensify. The new recruits look terrified. The veterans look weary. The sand drinks their sweat. The ledger is balanced. The lanista watches, a satisfied predator. Felix is likely already gone, sold, or discarded. The Celt's ashes are probably cooling in a ditch beyond the city walls. The cycle doesn't pause. It consumes. You pick up a scalpel, testing its edge against your thumb, still sharp. At least one thing remains reliable. You step back into the sunlit yard, the meager supplies already feeling insufficient. The next injury is only a misstep away. Time to make vinegar stretch and honey thin. The art of survival, practiced daily on the edge of a knife. Dusk bleeds into the courtyard, softening the harsh lines of training posts and weapon racks into charcoal smudges. The relentless thud, thud, thud has ceased, replaced by the softer clatter of gear being stowed and the low murmur of exhausted men. You lean against the warm stone of your taberna medica doorway, the day's accumulated heat radiating into your aching back. The air hangs heavy. Dust, liniment, the metallic tang of the forge cooling, and beneath it all, the sour note of fear slowly receding. Your hands, raw from vinegar, and rough linen rest at your sides. The meager supplies sit like an accusation on the shelf inside. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, thin. Honey, stingy. Vinegar, watery. Poppy, drops. Barely enough for tomorrow. Gavius limps past, heading for the barracks, his face etched with the day's effort. He gives you a curt nod, acknowledgement, not thanks. Survival is its own currency. Dacus follows, knuckling sweat from his eyes, the savage energy of the drills finally spent. The new Gaul hobbles behind them, his ankle tightly bound, learning the ludus, his weary rhythm. Mainstream historical fact. Gladiators often lived in strict, almost monastic discipline within the ludus, their lives regimented by training, meals, and rest, blurring the line between athlete, prisoner, and commodity. The routine is their scaffold. You push off the wall. Final rounds. The barracks is quieter tonight, filled with the deep breathing of exhaustion rather than fevered gasps. Gavius lies stiffly, leg elevated. You check the bandage. Clean, no fresh weeping. He grunts, already half asleep. Darcus is face down on his bunk, the bindings around his ribs rising and falling steadily. The new Gaul carefully positions his wrapped ankle. Felix's bunk is stripped bare, the wood scrubbed pale. A raw space. Quirky tidbit, some ludi, reportedly hung the rudis, wooden training sword of retired or freed gladiators on the walls as talismans of hope and skill. Your walls hold only tools and shadows. Historians still argue whether the rigid structure of the ludus offered a perverse kind of stability for enslaved men or was purely a mechanism of control. Watching the men sink into exhausted oblivion, it feels like both. You pause near the young fighter who'd had the rash. He sleeps peacefully. The new Thrakes, the one with the forge burn, watches you warily from his bunk, his arm hidden beneath a fold of his tunic. You meet his eyes, say nothing, move on. Mercy, sometimes, is letting wounds hide. 3 light jokes or whispers. 1, the stripped bunk as Felix's open door. 2, Gavius's grunt as the goodnight speech. 3, the hidden burn as the forge's secret handshake. Back in your room, you light the oil lamp. Its small flame fights the gloom. The stolen poppy vial is cold in your hand as you tuck it deeper into your chest behind rolls of precious linen. Suspicion lingers, but the night demands preparation. You refill a small vinegar jug from the meager amphora, decant thick honey into a tiny cup, stretching it thin for tomorrow's poultices. Sharpen the scalpel against a small whetstone. The rhythmic shh, a lullaby of necessity. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy. The list is complete, if diminished, ready as you can be. You blow out the lamp. Darkness, thick and velvety, presses in. Outside, the city's night sounds rise. Distant cartwheels, a drunk shout, the mournful call of the watch. Inside the ludus, silence reigns, profound and heavy. You lie on your pallet, straw prickling through the thin cloth. The day's echoes replay. The Gaul's twisted ankle, the lanista, slashing mark on the wax tablet sealing Felix's fate, Gavius's stubborn limp, Dacus's furious drilling, the thrakes, fearful eyes, the pitiful weight of the supplies, the ever-present scent of dust and dried blood. The arena's roar is a phantom vibration in your bones. Fatigue weighs your limbs like lead, but sleep dances just out of reach. The Celt's final, rattling breath whispers in the dark, Felix's vacant stare, the endless thud of wooden swords, the ledger's cold logic, the sand, always waiting, the kit, always needing filling, the faces changing, breaking, vanishing. You close your eyes, but the images flicker brighter. The city watch calls the third hour. Somewhere, a dog barks, sharp and lonely. The silence within the walls feels fragile, a thin skin over a well of exhaustion and dread. Dawn will come again, bringing the same dust, the same drills, the same slow march towards bloodstained sand. The cycle is the only constant. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy. The litany is a prayer now, a mantra against the void. You count them slowly, each word a bead on an invisible rosary, until the gray light finally creeps through your window, and the ludus begins to stir once more. The night's respite is over. The work never ends. Dawn's pale light finds you awake. Sleep was chased away by echoes of the lanistas, ledger, and the quiet void where Felix once trained. You step into a courtyard hushed by fatigue. The air holds a fragile coolness, smelling of damp stone and yesterday's sand. Gavius tests his bandaged leg, expression tight. Dacus moves with careful precision. The new Gaul eyes his wrapped ankle. Even the lanista's morning call lacks its usual sharpness. Mainstream historical fact. Roman healers documented how low spirits, tristitia, could hinder recovery, a truth visible in the weary faces around you. Your first task, the Gaul's ankle. Swelling has eased. You rebind it firmly. Light drills only, no weights. He nods, relief mixed with frustration. Next, Gavius. His wound appears stable. Still stiff when I move, he admits. You reapply honey. Move carefully. Give it time. A low grunt answers. Quirky tidbit? Romans sometimes placed smooth stones warmed by the sun on sore muscles, believing they drew out discomfort. You briefly consider offering Gavius a sun-warmed rock. He'd likely use it for target practice. 3 light thoughts. Gavius's careful steps as the morning glide, the Gaul's wrap as the patient package, the warm stone as the lanista avoidance tactic. As you finish with Dacus, voices rise near the gate. The lanista debates with a travel-weary merchant gesturing toward a large, slumped figure, a potential recruit. The man is powerfully built but unnaturally pale, sweat on his brow despite the cool air. His eyes seem distant. The merchant insists, sturdy as an old oak, just road-worn, a rare value. The lanista circles him, assessing. The man flinches slightly at a touch, a faint sound escaping. Historians debate whether the bustling slave trade sometimes passed individuals in poor condition or if misrepresentation was common. The merchant's restless stance speaks volumes. The lanista signals you. Assess him. The man's skin feels overly warm. His pulse flutters unevenly. Gentle pressure on his middle makes him tense and draw inward. Fever present, you state. Signs of significant fatigue. Likely requires extended rest. The lanista's face hardens. Not fit for purpose. Take him back. A brisk exchange follows. Finally, the merchant frowns, guiding the dazed man's arm. Come along then. Your journey continues. He leads the man back through the gate. The courtyard absorbs the quiet. Fighters exchange subdued glances. The man's weary expression seems to linger in the morning air. Drills begin, their rhythm subdued. Wooden swords meet practice posts with muted effort. You return to your taberna, the dismissed man's confusion lingering as you see your modest supplies. Scalpel, forceps, probi, Bandages, limited. Honey, conserved. Vinegar, diluted. Poppy, drops. Could rest and care have helped him? Possibly. But the ludus invests in readiness, not recovery for unknowns. The scalpel in your hand feels precise, yet its scope feels narrow. A soft shuffle at the doorway. The wiry Threx, with the concealed injury, stands hesitant. He reveals his forearm. The area looks aggravated, reddened, darkened by an odd, gritty residue. It troubles me more today. Metis, he murmurs. An old belief about ash-easing ailments. You gesture to the stool. Sit. You carefully cleanse the area, removing the residue. He remains still. You apply a layer of honey, then bind it with clean linen. Trust clean care now. Return tomorrow. He nods, fingers touching the bandage. Gratitude. He slips away quietly. Outside, the sun climbs. Drills find a steadier beat, but the energy feels thin. The thud, thud, thud underscores the constant demand on the body. The Gaul watches from the bench. Gavius walks his careful path. Dacus drills with fierce focus, perhaps pushing against the ledge's shadow. The hidden poppy vial feels significant. The dismissed man's weary face. The Thrake's quiet trust. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, poppy. The tools feel simple against life's complex strains. You step into the sunlight. The next need awaits. Time to make vinegar cleanse and honey comfort. The steady work of tending under the wide sky. The afternoon sun hangs heavy, turning the courtyard into a shimmering expanse. Drills continue, the steady thud, thud, thud of practice weapons merging with distant city sounds. You check the Thrake's bandage near the shaded forge. The linen remains clean, the skin beneath calmer. Healing well, you note, applying a thin layer of honey. He offers quiet thanks. Mainstream historical fact. Roman medics documented honey's natural properties for wound care, with scholars like Celsus noting its role in preserving tissue integrity, a rare alignment of tradition and observed results. Gavius walks deliberate laps along the shaded wall, his movement smoother today. Dacus trains with unwavering focus, his protective bindings secure. The Gaul observes from his bench, flexing his wrapped ankle with restless energy. Steady progress. Quirky tidbit. Some fighters quietly recited verses over their gear, invoking gods like Minerva for wisdom in healing or Vulcan for resilience. A young Secutor murmurs over his wooden sword nearby. You let the ritual unfold. 3 gentle observations. Gavius's smoother pace as the shaded stride. Dacus's concentration as the rhythm keeper. The murmuring fighter as the mindful trainee. Movement stirs near the gate. The lanista directs slaves unloading grain sacks, but his attention snaps to an apothecary's assistant presenting a sealed jar. The lanista opens it, sniffs, and scowls. Diluted. Tell your master this lacks strength. He thrusts it back. The assistant departs hurriedly. Vinegar. Your already limited supply now further compromised. Historians still debate whether product dilution reflected widespread fraud or practical responses to scarce resources in the empire's vast trade networks. The assistant's haste suggests both pressures exist. You return to your workspace. The shelves hold familiar items. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages few. Honey, guarded. Vinegar, weak. Poppy, minimal. The inadequate vinegar poses problems. Its cleansing edge is vital. You examine the rejected jar. Its scent faint, potency questionable. Concentrating it through boiling becomes necessary. A tedious process demanding fuel and time. Constraints tighten. A silhouette fills the doorway. The lanista. He scans your domain, gaze lingering on sparse supplies. Felix, he states. Transferred. Salt merchant needed laborers. Secured reasonable value. His tone remains detached. Felix, whose agility once defined him, now bound for new shores of labor. The Gaul's ankle, he shifts. Mending. Days until drills, you reply. A grunt. Good. Idle hands waste coin. The vinegar. He eyes the weak jar. Adapt. He departs, leaving behind the scent of dust and pragmatism. The news settles. Salt work meant coastal winds and physical demands, a different challenge. You lift the scalpel, its precision unchanged. A tool for immediate tasks, not life's redirections. Outside, training persists. The earlier hint of rain remains unfulfilled. The sky stays clear and bright. Mainstream note: Central Italy's climate brought dry summers where promised storms often passed by, leaving only heightened humidity. As daylight softens, you begin concentrating the vinegar. A small brazier glows in your doorway, the liquid simmering in a bronze bowl, releasing sharp fumes that sting your eyes. Slow work. Brescia's fuel burns. The Thrax lingers nearby, polishing a shield, his eyes occasionally drifting to the process. Interest? Apprehension? Unclear. 3 quiet thoughts. The simmering vinegar as the essence extractor, the Lanistas update as the career shift, the watching, Thrakes, as the curious observer. The goal rises, testing his ankle on the sand. Tentative steps grow steadier, a faint smile appearing. Gavius finishes his walk, breathing evenly. Dacus concludes his drills, wiping his brow. The murmuring Secuta rests, blade across his knees. The thud, thud, thud ceases as training ends. Day's heat lifts from the stones. You watch liquid reduce drop by drop. The concentrated vinegar will serve its purpose. The effort mirrors your reality, distilling necessity from scarcity through patient effort. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, stronger soon, poppy, minimal. The tools endure, rolls evolve, the sand remains. You stir the simmering bowl, its sharp scent a pledge against unseen threats. Night rounds await, but here in the fading light, tending this transformation is the immediate task. The practice of perseverance, witnessed by twilight, as the ludus settles into weary quiet. The concentrated vinegar cools in its bowl, its sharp scent cutting through the evening air like a blade. You seal the potent liquid in a clay jar, precious drops of cleanliness earned through hours of patient tending. Night embraces the ludus, velvet and deep, punctuated only by torch flames dancing along the walls. Distant city sounds drift over, a cart's rumble, a fragment of song, the call of the watch marking the hours. Silence reigns within, thick with exhaustion. You begin night rounds, lamp in hand. The Gaul sleeps deeply, his ankle resting on rolled cloth. You gently adjust the binding, swelling reduced, tendons knitting. Progress. Gavius lies motionless, his bandaged legs straight. A touch confirms no fever, steady breaths. Dacus snores softly, ribs rising and falling evenly beneath linen wraps. Mainstream historical fact. Roman physicians emphasized nocturnal observation of patients, believing changes in breathing, skin temperature, or restlessness during the quiet hours revealed critical diagnostic clues invisible by day. The stillness now speaks of healing. Near the forge, the Thrax startles awake as your light falls on him. His bandaged arm rests outside his blanket. You motion to check it. He extends his arm wordlessly. Unwrapping reveals clean tissue. No redness, no seepage. Honey's golden magic at work. Good, you whisper. He nods, relief softening his features. Quirky tidbit? Some Romans believed sleeping with a bulla, childhood amulet, under the pillow warded off night phantoms causing fevers or bad dreams. You notice a leather pouch peeking from under his straw mattress. You don't ask. 3 quiet observations. The Gaul's ankle as the mending bridge, Gavius' stillness as the stone statue shift, the Thrake's amulet as the dream guardian. A soft groan slices the quiet. The young, whispering Secutor thrashes on his bunk, caught in a nightmare. No, net too heavy, he mumbles, sweat gleaming on his brow. Night terrors after the arena's shadow. You dampen a cloth with cool water, press it to his forehead. He stills, breathing easing. Historians still debate whether gladiators commonly suffered night disturbances akin to modern trauma responses or if rigid discipline and fatalism suppressed such manifestations. His whimpers suggest the former. You step into the moonlit courtyard. The air is cooler now, smelling of damp earth and cooled stone. Above, the Milky Way spills across the sky. Via Lactea, the Romans called it, a path of scattered milk. Torchlight flickers on empty training posts, turning them into silent sentinels. The simmering brazier is cold ash. The ledger's weight feels lighter here, under the stars. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, strong, poppy, drops. The tools feel aligned tonight, sufficient for the wounds presented. Movement catches your eye. The lanista stands on the far gallery, a silhouette against the starry sky. He stares northward toward the distant hills beyond Rome. Unusual stillness in a man of constant calculation. Is he tallying profits? Remembering Felix? Or simply gazing at stars that care nothing for ledgers? The moment passes. He turns, his boots echoing on stone as he retreats to his quarters. Even predators rest. You return to your taberna medica. The moon casts silver rectangles through the window, illuminating dust motes dancing in still air. You place the scalpel, forceps, and probe in their case, clean, ready. Bandages rest in neat rolls. Honey glows amber in its jar. Concentrated vinegar sits sealed. The hidden poppy vial remains untouched. A night without crisis. A gift. You lie on your pallet, moonlight washing the room. The usual dread is muted. Images still drift. Felix vanishing through the gate, the Gaul's first steady steps, the Thrakes, its grateful nod, the Secutor, its quieted nightmare. But they lack their sharp edges. The thud, thud, thud of drills is replaced by the chirp of a lone cricket near the wall. Rome's heartbeat slows. Dawn will come, drills will resume, the sand awaits. But here, now, in the moon's quiet dominion, the relentless cycle pauses. You breathe deeply, the air cool and clean. For a few stolen hours, the weight lifts. The scalpel rests. The vinegar sleeps. The honey dreams. You close your eyes, not fighting the stillness. The watch calls the 4th hour, a distant murmur. The cricket sings. Sleep, when it comes, is a deep, dark river carrying you gently away from dust and linen and bone. No count of tools, no litany of needs, just silence, vast and forgiving, under the watchful gaze of the indifferent, beautiful stars. Dawn arrives not with a shout, but with a slow seep of pale gold light. The lone cricket song fades as the city's murmur rises, carts rumbling, shutters creaking open, the distant bleat of goats heading to market. You wake not to dread's familiar fist, but to the residual calm of the deep night. Muscles still ache, but the edge is blunted. The quiet lingers, fragile as the dust motes dancing in the first sunbeams slanting through your window. Stepping into the courtyard feels different. The air is cool, smelling of dew-kissed sand and damp stone. Gavius is already walking his laps, his stride smoother, the limp barely perceptible. He nods curtly as you pass. Daucus stretches, testing his ribs cautiously, a look of surprise crossing his face at the diminished ache. The new Gaul stands, weight shifting confidently onto his healed ankle. He takes a few experimental steps, then grins, a rare, unguarded flash of relief. Mainstream historical fact. Roman medical practitioners like Galen documented the body's natural healing capacity, vis medicatrix naturae, emphasizing rest and cleanliness as vital allies, even if their understanding of why remained rooted in humoral theory. The evidence walks before you. The Thrakes approaches, holding out his arm. You unwrap the bandage. The forge burn is pale pink, neatly healed. Keep it clean, you advise, applying a final smear of honey. Back to drills today. He nods, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. Gratitude, Metis. He heads towards the weapon rack, picking up a wooden psycha with his good hand. Quirky tidbit? Some fighters carried a small pouch of dried lentils, not for eating, but as a charm against muscle cramps. believing the legume's shape mimicked relaxed sinews. You see the young secutor tuck a small bag into his belt before grasping his practice sword. 3 light observations. Gavius's smoother walk as the dawn patrol, the Gaul's grin as the ankle victory, the lentil pouch as the cramp confuser. The lanista emerges, surveying the yard with a critical eye. His gaze lands on the Gaul, now drilling lightly. A flicker of approval, or just calculation confirmed? He barks orders, jump-starting the day's rhythm. The thud, 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 thud of wooden swords begins, softer than yesterday, less frantic. A sense of convalescence hangs in the air. Historians still argue whether periods of relative calm like this in El Ludus fostered genuine camaraderie or merely stored tension for the next eruption. Watching Darkus drill alongside the Gaul, offering a quiet tip-on stance, it hints at the former. Your moment of peace shatters mid-morning. A chorus of harsh, dry coughs erupts near the water trough. 2 new recruits, pale and shivering despite the warming sun, huddle miserably. Another fighter sneezes violently. Then another. A ripple of illness spreads through the newer men. Sniffles, hoarse voices, fevers brewing. Mainstream fact. Roman crowded living conditions, especially in ludi or army barracks, were notorious breeding grounds for respiratory plagues, pestilentia, often blamed on bad air, miasma, rather than contagion. The close quarters here are a perfect incubator. The lanista storms over, face thunderous. What is this? Weaklings! Medicus! Fix it! No downtime! His voice cracks like a whip. Panic is bad for business and morale. You heard the worst affected towards a corner of the portico. The shivering recruits, a veteran, Mamillo, looking unusually flushed. The sneezing secutor. Quarantine, makeshift but necessary. Options, prevention is key. You order slaves to haul pots of water to boil over braziers. Steam fills the air, thick and moist. You crush cloves of garlic, mixing the pungent paste with honey. A spoonful each morning, you order, forcing it on the sickly. And breathe the steam. Garlic's sharp reek joins the humid air. Quirky detail? Romans hung garlands of strong-smelling herbs like rue or garlic near doorways to ward off illness-bearing spirits. You lack garlands, but the principle feels sound. The lanista watches, scowling. Garlic? Steam? Is this medicine or cooking? Prevention, you state flatly. Unless you want half your fighters down by week's end. He grunts, unconvinced but silenced by the threat. Historians still fiercely debate whether Roman efforts at disease containment, quarantine, fumigation, herbal preventatives had any real effect beyond placebo, or if they inadvertently stumbled upon basic hygiene principles. Watching the recruits cough less after breathing steam, you hope it's the latter. 3 light jokes feel strained. The steam corner as the cloud lounge, the garlic paste as the breath of defiance, the lanistas scowl as the profit protection program. You move among the healthier fighters, urging them to drink mint-infused water to avoid the sick corner. Darkus wrinkles his nose at the garlic, but takes his dose. Gavius swallows it without comment. The Gaul gags slightly but obeys. The Thrakes accepts it stoically. The secutor clutches his lentil pouch and takes the garlic. Double protection. The yard becomes a symphony of coughs, sneezes, the hiss of boiling water, and the pervasive smell of garlic and eucalyptus from the steam pots. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, strong, garlic, abundant, poppy, reserved. The kit adapts. The fight shifts from visible wounds to invisible invaders. As the sun climbs, the steam seems to ease the worst coughs. The shivering recruits huddle closer to the braziers, looking less deathly. It's a holding action, fragile. The lanista paces, radiating impatience. The drills continue, but the thud is punctuated by sneezes. You stir a fresh pot of garlic honey, the sharp scent stinging your eyes. The quiet night feels a lifetime ago. The battle against the unseen is relentless, fought with steam and stinking cloves, under a watchful sun and a lanista's impatient glare. The auto-prevention practiced in a cloud of vapor as the ludus holds its breath. The garlic war rages for 3 more days. You move through a world hazy with steam and reeking of allium, your hands sticky with honey paste. The lanista scowl deepens with every pot of water boiled, every clove crushed, each one a tiny dent in his profits. But slowly, stubbornly, the tide turns. The recruit's shivering subsides, replaced by damp exhaustion. The veteran Murmillo's flushed skin cools. Even the sneezing secutor manages drills between nose blows, his lentil pouch now joined by a garlic clove tucked into his belt. Mainstream historical fact. Roman military valetudinaria. Hospitals employed dedicated steam rooms, sudationes, for respiratory treatments, recognizing, albeit without germ theory, that humid heat eased congestion. Your makeshift steam corner mirrors this ancient ICU. By the 4th dawn, the coughs have softened into dry rasps. The lanista corners you near the weapon racks, his voice low and grudging. They live, mostly. How? You wipe garlic residue on your tunic. Steam loosened the phlegm. Garlic maybe angered the illness into leaving. He snorts, but you catch the flicker of relief beneath his scowl. Profit margins preserved. Quickie did bit. Some Roman healers believed illness could be scared out of the body by sudden shocks. You briefly consider dumping cold water on the convalescents just to test the theory. 3 light observations. The reduced coughing as the raspy symphony, the lanista's near praise as the economic miracle, the lingering garlic scent clinging to your hair as the perfume of prevention. Normalcy, or its brutal cousin, returns. Gavius drills at full speed, his limp vanished. The Gaul tests his ankle with aggressive leaps, grinning fiercely. Darkest spars, ribs forgotten. Only the Thrax moves cautiously, his healed arm still stiff. You watch them, living, breathing proof of nature's resilience, patched together by honey, vinegar, and stubbornness. Historians still hotly debate whether the high survival rates recorded in some ludi were due to skilled medici, the fighters' exceptional physical conditioning, or simply selective record-keeping that ignored the dead. Seeing Gavius parry a blow, swift and sure, you lean towards conditioning, and sheer luck. Then the summons comes. Not for a fever or a fracture, but for the ledger. The lanista sits in his shadowed office, a wax tablet open before him. The munus of Flavius Bassus, 10 days hence. His finger taps a list of names: Gavius, Dacus, the Gaul, the Thrax, the Secutor, with his lentils. Your fighters. Ensure they're fit. Not healthy. Fit. Functional assets. The weight settles back onto your shoulders, heavier now. Scalpel, forceps, probe, bandages, honey, vinegar, garlic, poppy. The kit is ready. The arena always wins. You walk back through the courtyard at dusk. The air is finally clear of steam and thick instead with the scent of oil lamps and roasted chickpeas. Fighters clean weapons, their laughter sharp in the cooling air. The Gaul claps Dacus on the back. Gavius offers the Thrax advice on stance. For a moment, it feels less like a prison, more like a brotherhood forged in blood and survival. You check the Secutor's lingering sniffle. Minor. Apply a smear of honey to the Gaul's blistered palm. Feel the solid knit of bone beneath Dacus's ribs. It's enough. It has to be. Later, perched on your pallet, you stare at your hands in the lamplight. They smell of garlic and iron. These hands have stitched muscle, set bone, smeared honey on burns, and held poppy tears to trembling lips. They've failed too. The faces of those you couldn't save flicker in the shadows. The fevered fighter from last month, the boy with the gut wound. But tonight, the faces of Gavius, Dacus, the Gaul, even the lentil-loving Secutor overlay them. You blew steam in Death's face this week. You bought them 10 days. 10 days to train. 10 days to live. The lamp sputters. Outside, the city's night murmur swells. Carts, distant shouts, a barking dog. Rome breathes, indifferent. You extinguish the flame. Darkness wraps around you, thick and velvety. The frantic energy of the plague battle. The lanista, pressure. The looming sands of the arena. They recede. All that remains is the deep, bone-aching fatigue, and beneath it, a quiet, stubborn ember. You did your work. The ludus sleeps. For now, you lie back. The rough wool of your blanket scratches your chin. Somewhere, a lone flute plays a mournful, wandering tune. The frantic pulse of the ludus, the roar of imagined crowds, the sting of antiseptic vinegar. It all softens, blurs at the edges like ink in rain. Breathe in, dust, dried herbs, the faintest ghost of garlic clinging to your skin. Breathe out, let the tightness in your shoulders unravel. The flute's melody loops, simple and ancient, weaving through the quiet like a thread of silver in the dark. Feel the weight of your body sinking into the palate, supported by the solid, unyielding earth beneath the stone floor. Rome above teems with life and death, triumphs and tragedies. But down here, in this pocket of stillness, there's just the rise and fall of your own chest, the slow beat of your heart, a steady drum in the quiet. The faces of the gladiators drift through your mind. Gavius's stern focus, Darcus's weary grin, the Gauls' fierce joy in movement, not as burdens now, but as flickering candles in the vast darkness. You tended the light, that was your task. Let the images dissolve, let the sounds fade. The flute, the last cart rumble, the sigh of wind against the tiles. There's only the darkness now, warm and embracing. It holds the scent of sun-warmed stone from the courtyard, the faint, clean smell of linen bandages folded away. It holds the silence, deep and complete. Your thoughts slow, drifting like ash settling after a fire. No battles to fight tonight. No wounds to bind, just rest. Deep, healing rest. Drift. The darkness is soft. It cradles you, gentle and complete. And so the great machine of Rome lumbers on, fueled by ambition and blood, sweat and iron. But here, now, in this hush that follows the story, let it all recede. Let the clang of swords fade into the chirp of crickets outside your own window. Let the stifling heat of the ludus courtyard melt into the cool, quiet air around you. You walked those gritty streets tonight. You felt the weight of the surgeon's kit. You fought death with steam and garlic. You bore witness. Now, let it go. Feel the tension seep from your own limbs, as if you've laid down a heavy burden after a long journey. The struggles of that distant world, the triumphs and failures of the medicus and his charges, they are echoes now, softening, dissolving back into the tapestry of time. Breathe deeply in and out. Slow, steady. Notice the gentle pressure where your body meets the mattress, the softness of the sheets, the comforting weight of blankets. There is no arena sand here, no feverish gladiator awaiting your touch. Only peace. The story was vivid, perhaps intense, but it's over now. It joins countless others whispered into the night. Fragments of lives lived long ago under different stars. They don't need your worry anymore. They rest. And so can you. Let your mind become still, like a pool undisturbed by even the faintest ripple. Thoughts may come, fragments of the ludus, the scent of herbs, the thud of practiced swords, but let them drift by like clouds across a vast, calm sky. Don't follow them. Just observe their passing, gentle and weightless. The darkness behind your eyelids is soft and welcoming. Sink into it, deeper. Feel a profound calm spreading outward from your core, warming your fingers, your toes, easing every muscle, every nerve. You are safe. You are still. The only sound is your own breath, a quiet tide washing in and out, carrying away the last remnants of the day, of the story, of any lingering thought. Drift on this tide, effortless, floating into a deep and dreamless Sleep.